Good evening. Thank you for attending our virtual Board of Adjustment meeting. We appreciate your patience and understanding through this time. For the public who would like to participate in this public hearing and are not already connected and able to audibly communicate with the board, please call 407-665-7443. Staff will provide information on how to participate. In the event that a speaker has lost communication while communicating with the board, the applicant will need to reconnect to the webinar. The board will determine whether or not to continue the agenda item to the end of the hearing as not to delay the meeting. All public comments will be audible only, no video. When the public comment period arrives on the agenda, the chairman will ask for anyone to speak in support of the item to raise their hand. Please use the raise hand feature and wait to be recognized. The webinar host will unmute your microphone. Persons joining the meeting via phone can use the virtual raise hand feature by pressing *9 on the phone's keypad. Board members and staff will be visible. The video option is disabled for applicant and members of the public. The meeting will be conducted in the same manner that we would in a regular meeting. Staff will introduce each item for consideration. The applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of their request. Those in opposition to the request will be heard next. The applicant will give them a chance for rebuttal if necessary. The board may ask questions of speakers or staff members. At the conclusion of all speakers, I will then ask the board for a motion. Once a motion has been made and seconded, discussion will be closed to the floor. Following board discussion, a vote will be taken. During voting, board members who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Once the board has voted on your item, you may leave the meeting if you wish. Speakers should identify themselves clearly for the record by stating their name and address. Comments should be restricted to pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. Speakers should mute televisions and computers to limit background feedback while speaking. Please be aware that information such as pictures, site plans, letters, etc., presented at a public hearing will be kept by the clerk as part of the public record. Individuals will be given 3 minutes for their comments. If you are speaking on behalf of an official group, you will have 6 minutes for comments. Any person aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 15 days, file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners through the Planning and Development Division of the Development Services Department. Okay, and board members, on item 1, the applicant is confidential, so they will not be stating their name. Okay, Kathy, go ahead with the first item.
Good evening, Angie Califer with Planning and Development. Item number 1 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 21 feet for an addition in the R1 AAA single family dwelling district. The applicants are proposing to add an additional 304 square feet to a 600 square foot covered patio. The proposed addition will encroach 9 feet into the required rear yard setback. Letters of support have been received from 10 of the surrounding neighbors, and no previous variances have been approved for this lot. This concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present?
The applicant is present and they are available to speak.
Okay, is there anything you would like to add to the staff comments, sir?
Negative. Everything that I have available at this current time was presented. If there's any additional questions, I'm free here to assist.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for the applicant?
How many guesses do we get to name them?
10.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one raising their hand.
Okay. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one raising their hand.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Mr. Bigley and a second from Mr. Hadaway. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Favor?
Mr. Coover,
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway,
Yes.
Ms. Stark,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The motion carries unanimously. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
All right, item number 2 is a request for 5 variances located on lot 74 on Lincoln Street. The first variance is for a front yard setback variance from 50 feet to 15 feet. Variances 2 and 3 are for a west and east side yard setback from 10 feet to 7.5 feet. 4 is for a lot size variance from 43,560 square feet to 5,200 square feet. And variance 5 is for a width at building line variance from 150 feet to 52 feet for a single family residence in the A1 agricultural district. This parcel is a parcel of record that predated the subdivision regulations. The lot is within the community development target area called Midway, designated by Seminole County in order to promote new housing opportunities. The overall goal of the county's program is to stabilize and revitalize low-income neighborhoods through capital improvement, housing rehabilitation, and public service activities. The proposed single-family residence will be approximately 2,035 square feet and will encroach 35 feet into the required front yard setback and 2.5 feet into the required west and east side yard setbacks. Let me see. I have one more thing to say here. Based on the stated findings, staff recommends approval of the request, but if the Board of Adjustment determines that the applicant has satisfied all 6 criteria under the section of the Seminole County Land Development Code for granting a variance, and staff recommends approval based on the criteria. This completes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Yes, and you state your name and address for the record, please.
It's Michael D. Buffelli, 721 Holbrook Circle, Lake Mary, Florida, 32746.
Okay, sir, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there any questions for the applicant? All right. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one raising their hand.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one raising their hand.
Okay, board, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Heather gave us a motion to approve and Mr. Hadaway gave us a second. Okay, any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just for the record, Mr. Boffelli called me last week seeking advice. I referred him a while back, like a couple of months when we talked, to see Kathy, and I did not give any legal advice to him. I just want that on the record.
Yes, sir. Any other discussion? Okay, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
In favor?
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the motion carries 5-0. All right, good luck. Next item, please.
Item number 3 is the same request for 5 variants located on the adjacent lot 73 on Lincoln Street and meets the same criteria as item number 2. Based on that information, that criteria, staff recommends approval for lot 73 on Lincoln Street as well. And this concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
He is. He's available to talk. It's the
Okay.
same applicant.
All right, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, sir. It's Michael D. Buffelli, 721 Holbrook Circle, Lake Mary, Florida, 32746.
Okay, Is there anything you'd like to add to staff comments?
No, sir. Thank you for the process. It's been very pleasant to deal with everybody.
Okay, great. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No one raising their hand.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
There's no one.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Bigley has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Hoover seconds. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Vote aye, sir.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway,
Yes.
Ms. Stark,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 4 is a request for a front yard setback variance from 25 feet to 6 feet for an addition in the R1 Single Family Dwelling District located at 47 East 2nd Street in the North Trulio replat subdivision. The addition will be 240 square feet and will encroach 19 feet into the required front yard setback. There have not been any prior variances for this subject property, and the addition must be attached. I did discuss this with the applicant. I just wanted that to be on record, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is present. They're on the phone, so they just need to, and they're available.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Jesse F. Huggins, 47 East 2nd Street, Chuliota, Florida.
Okay, sir, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
No.
I must say that is one of the most unique property shapes I have ever seen.
It's
It
2
is
lots.
2 lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No one is raising their hand.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
There's no one.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bigley has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconds. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Good luck. All right, next item.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 15 feet to 14.5 feet for an addition in the PD Plan Development District located at 4800 Cliveden Loop in the Windsor Square subdivision. The proposed screen room addition will be 120 square feet and will encroach 10.5 feet into the required rear yard setback. The Windsor Square Homeowners Association has approved the proposed screen enclosure addition, and there have not been any prior variances for the subject property. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Yes, Mr. Hadaway.
For the vacant lot, as per the images we have to the east side there, are there any plans for anything to be built there, or is that going to be a retention pond, or?
I do believe, hold on, let me look at my, I want to say, you're saying to the east, it
Yes.
is, it's an easement.
Gotcha. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Coover, you had your hand up?
Yeah, what is the open space area to the rear? Is that dedicated open space by the developer?
It's drainage and retention.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Isaiah Taylor, 4800 Cliveden Loop, Sanford, Florida.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation, sir?
Sure. Our sales associate for the developer stated that creating a screen enclosure would not be an issue. And in our particular community, in order to build a screen enclosure, we have to apply for a variance because all of the lots, their setbacks won't allow you to build any structure on the back area. And there have been 2 units that have already been approved, one during development, one after development for this screen enclosure. And we just want to, as first-time homeowners, to just increase the value of our home and enjoy it, especially with our lovely summer year, long weather here in Florida, and just use that as a way to relax and get some mental relaxation, especially during this time. And that'll be the end for my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Yes, Mr. Hathaway.
Mr. Taylor, have you spoken with your neighbors and do you know what their thoughts are because they're not included in our packet?
I have not spoken to my neighbors to the right of me or anything like that. But there, like I said, there have been other ones that have been approved, but I haven't specifically spoken to the neighbor on the right side of me.
All right, thank you, sir.
No problem.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No one raising their hand.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No, no one.
Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve.
All right, Ms. Stark motions to approve. Do we have a second?
A second.
Mr. Beagley seconds. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so it carries 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
Item number 6 is a request for a side yard west setback variance from 7.5 feet to 5 feet for a pool's water's edge in the PD Plan Development District located at 516 Cinder Point in the Walden Cove subdivision. The proposed pool's water's edge will encroach 2.5 feet into the required side yard west setback. Letters of support have been received from 2 of the adjacent neighbors, and there have not been any prior variances for this subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Steve Engel, 516 Cinder Point, Sanford, Florida, 32771.
Well, good evening. Is there anything you would like to add to the staff presentation?
No, thank you.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? All right, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
Yes.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request?
Yes, we have someone in support.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yes.
Hello, please state your name and address for the record.
They've raised their hand, but they need to unmute. They're available.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. My name's Adam Koyman. I live at 784 South Lake Claire Circle in Oviedo, Florida. And I just wanted to let you all know at the staff that I'm the pool designer. And if you had any technical questions, I'm available for you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Quinlan? All right. Is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
We have no one.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, Ms. Stark has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Coover seconds. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Good luck.
Thank
All right, next item.
Item number 7 is a request for a front yard setback variance from 50 feet to 25 feet for an addition in the A5 zoning district located at 470 South Cochran Road. The proposed addition will be 1,152 square feet and will encroach 25 feet into the required front yard setback. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
They are, and they're available to talk.
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Heather Clemens. I live at 470 South Cochran Road in Geneva, Florida.
Well, good evening, ma'am. Is there anything you would like to add to the staff presentation?
I would just like to thank you, staff, for preparing and presenting, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board, for considering our request.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions for the applicant? Mr. Coover?
Ms. Clemens, have you talked to your neighbor at all up on Cochran Road?
Yes, we have a person in front of us, and we have neighbors to the east and to the north and to the south. I've talked to all 3 of them, and no one is in opposition.
Okay. It appears that all houses are pretty far apart out there, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No one.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No. No one.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Move to approve.
All right.
Sorry.
Mr. Coover has a motion to approve. Mr. Beagley has a second.
Sound good.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item.
Good evening. For the record, Hillary Payton, Planning and Development. Item number 8 is a variance request for 1650 Augusta Way, located in the Deer Run subdivision. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 14 feet for a screen room addition to an existing single-family dwelling in the Deer Run plan development. The applicants would like to construct a 33.5-foot by 17-foot addition 6 feet into the required 20-foot rear yard setback. 4 letters of support have been received from the surrounding property neighbors, in addition to an email from support received from the Country Club at Deer Run. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Mr. Coover?
One, what's the status if any, of the golf course being transferred or transformed into a residential area?
That I do not know. The only information that I have is that it's an abandoned golf course at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Hadaway?
Hillary, looking at the aerials, it seems like what they're requesting is consistent or equidistant to their three neighbors to the west. Am I seeing that wrong?
The difference is that they're going to have a solid roof as opposed to a screen roof where it would have a lower setback.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available to speak.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Robert Joseph Mungavin, 1650 Augusta Way, Castleberry, Florida, 32707.
Well, good evening. Is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
Well, as Hillary said, I did get letters from all my surrounding neighbors, and I got an actual call from the owner of the golf course. But I wanted to, somebody asked a question, and I wanted to, the whole plan that they put in to build houses a while back, the nearest house to me would be over 1,000 feet away if they ever were able to do that. There would never be anything back of my area.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
There's no one.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No, no hands.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Stark has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconds. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item.
Item number 9 is a variance for 2134 Shady Hill Terrace located in the Autumn Glen subdivision. The request is to reduce the south side street setback from 20 feet to 10 feet for a privacy fence in the Woodland Crossing plan development. The property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces west on Shady Hill Terrace. The Winter Way side on the south is where the variance is being sought. The proposed privacy fence is 10 feet from the sidewalk and 20 feet from the edge of pavement. The proposed privacy fence encroaches into a utility easement, and that building permitting will be required to meet the criteria for placement within a estoppel letter. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Autumn Glen Homeowners Association has approved the proposed fence. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Yes, Mr. Hadaway.
Taking a look at the aerials and the other photos you just shared there, am I saying it correctly that their neighbor to the east has a fence, a wooden fence, it looks like at the exact same distance that the applicant is requesting?
That's correct.
Do we know anything about the status of that fence?
It appears that it didn't receive a building permit for that fence. It was placed.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Carlos Valentin. My address is 2134 Shady Hill Terrace, Winter Park, Florida.
Is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
No, as Hillary mentioned earlier, I spoke with my neighbor, and they haven't been there a year, so they didn't even know that there wasn't a permit for their fence. So my goal was to try to match it for gardening. I just want to do some extra gardening and vegetables and organize my backyard more. I would just be moving the fence just to match too much there. There's other examples in my neighborhood as well that I guess weren't permitted either. So I didn't know about any of that. So I was looking to see if there are other good examples, but that were permitted, but they weren't. So I just appreciate you guys viewing my my variance today. And that's all. And I'm here for any more questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Okay, so the reason you picked that distance is because your neighbor had one there and you were trying to balance the look.
I was not just that. I really do a lot of gardening. So I was trying to have more vegetables and more space in my backyard without so it's in an enclosed space. So as well as have a little area maybe where I can organize my things in the backyard better as well. So that's basically, yeah, it was part of the aesthetics was part of it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No hands.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No, no one.
Okay, board, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Clark has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Beagley seconds. Discussion.
I like the fact that it's right on the utility easement.
He's saying that he likes it. That is right on the utility easement. So.
Mr. Chairman, I just, I know I'm a broken record on this, but I just don't like these fences coming out and turning our neighborhoods into a series of alleys. And I'm going to be consistent in that.
Okay. Well, as you know, I agree with you on that. Okay. Any other discussion?
We've got 10 feet to the sidewalk, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think that would create an alley look.
I don't either.
I mean, if it was 2 or 3 feet, like some of the future requests are, I can see that point. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
All right. Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
No.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
I vote no, so it carries 3-2. Good luck with your fence.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next item.
Item number 10 is a variance request for 3535 Michigan Street, located in the Tierra Verde Preserve subdivision. The request is to reduce the front yard setback from 100 feet to 6 feet for ground-mounted solar panels in the A1 zoning district. The applicant is requesting to bring into compliance the construction of the solar panel system measuring approximately 32 feet wide by 27 feet deep and 21 feet high at the highest point. A letter of opposition has been received, which was provided to the board this afternoon. This concludes my presentation. I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Do you have any questions for staff?
So the solar panels are already there? Are they already there?
Yes, there's photos right here.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Hathaway?
The letter in opposition we got it via email seems to be anonymous. Do we have any idea who did send it in?
That's correct. It was sent in anonymous.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff?
How big is the parcel?
How big is the parcel? I'm sorry. Is that what
Yes.
I believe.
How many acres?
I believe it's 3 or 4 acres, maybe 5, but a lot of it is in the wetlands along the rear.
Okay.
I don't have an extra screen to pull that up for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was looking at
Yeah,
the
we have it.
tax bill, but I couldn't find it.
If this gives you a better idea.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's big.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, excuse me. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my first name is Darshan Patel. My address is 3535 Michigan Street. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
Well, first of all, I'm really thankful for your staff just being super prompt and really accurate in corresponding with me. As a family, I'm very environmentally focused person, including my kids, and this house actually already has awarded a LEED certification in silver category with 10 kilowatts installed on top of the roof. I installed the additional 18 kilowatts to extend, more, lesser carbon footprint. The solar panels installed specifically on top of an abandoned drain field. It existed when we installed the solar panel, but due to Department of Health concerns, we actually relocated the drain field. That proves how committed I am to make this a success. I'm not sure what the anonymous letter email you may have received, but there's 5 residents on the Michigan street. I know them all personally very well, and they're all super excited to have this installed. Some of the neighbors were going to join this meeting for the favor to as a favor as to say yes for the approval. I'm open to if you have any questions I can answer. And parcel, by the way, it's 2.9 acres.
Okay. Well, I personally love solar panels. I have them. My house has full solar power. Is that the only place they could have been 6 feet from the road or the property line?
Yes. So Pulte Home actually cleared up a lot of trees. The previous photos actually showed how secluded it was, which you cannot even see the solar panel. And I think the road actually shifted closer to the panels, which still is quite a distance from the road. And I've also planted, I've done another set of investment and put some giant bamboos. They tend to grow 65 feet. They would turn into a wall, essentially, to kind of block that, look, if you will, if somebody doesn't prefer solar panels to be seen while they're driving. I love them, by the way. Personally, I'm a big fan of solar panel. I've implemented it in my business and everywhere else that I can. I don't want to discount the opportunity to get it. Whenever I get it, I'll install it.
Okay, who installed them?
So Abender Corporation is a vendor based out of South Florida. He's also has an office in Pittsburgh. He's actually with me for this call. If you have any questions, we can answer those for you.
Well, I guess my question is, initially, why wasn't it permitted ahead of time? And we would have dealt with this before the panels were constructed.
So Daniel, the question is, why wasn't this permitted ahead of time?
Yes, that is my fault. I was in Florida. I was doing work over here at the time, and I never suspected that there could be any problem with it. I spoke with a contractor who built the drain field. This solar panel system is on that drain field, and he went through the whole process. He had it approved. He told me, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be approved. Now he told me that would be great, because often what happens is that people drive cars on top of drain fields and damage them. In this case, that land, which is pretty much going to waste, otherwise could be used. So I went with his technical expertise answer, and I thought that it was great. We were very excited about it because with this, he will be carbon free.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank
I'd
you.
like him,
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Cooper.
I'd like the applicant to expand a little bit on his discussions with his neighbors, since we have a concerned resident letter which says that this thing is, I guess, a monstrous structure, and I'd just like him to expand on what he said earlier.
Yeah, I'm not sure where, the letter, who sent the letter. I know every neighbor on the street. And they all admire and appreciate, the installation of it. I personally was not happy how open the house looks. Prior to, there was a lot of wooded trees. So that's why I chose to install the bamboos, because that would be the fastest way for me to kind of bring the privacy back, if you will, and still continue to, make it less pronounced from the outside. But, every neighbor that I've talked to, while we had this variance application, we were a pretty close community here. As you can see, my neighbor's kid is also there. And, we all kind of play quite a bit here, and I've never heard anybody objecting about it. So I'm not sure if that person was a resident on the street or potentially a parent who happens to be on the other side of you could see the school building on the picture. So there's a lot of parents who see or wait for their kids for drop off or pickup while they see that structure, which was previously invisible.
It was a neighbor. He stated that he was a neighbor. I just didn't receive any confirmation. He didn't want to leave a name or an address.
I see.
Okay, how much space between the front of that structure and that driveway, as I look at this picture, this circular driveway?
How much space from the
front
driveway?
of the solar panel, as it faces the house side? I see the picture they had up, it showed where the kids were standing there.
Yes.
How much space is there between there and the driveway?
I would say at least 40 feet, maybe 50 feet.
So why, I'm asking, this is hindsight, I guess, but why not move it 40 feet closer to the house where it's not 6 feet off the property line? Now it's 46 feet off the property line.
Right. So currently that area, if you notice it, it has a bunch of vegetable garden that just finished. So it's a community garden essentially. So I grow a lot of vegetables, eggplants, and otherwise that the entire community comes in and picks the fruits of it. So if you flip through one more picture, you will be able to see that. Right behind where the kids are, there's a circular Hugo burn. It's a kind of a plantation method where you plant stuff that grows vertically in an arch form.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Hadaway.
I'm sorry, I should know this, but I don't. What across the street from the solar panel in your house, that structure of buildings that's between your house and Markham Woods Elementary, what is all of that?
I think it's I don't know the exact term, but it's a retention, water retention area.
I mean the buildings. I think it's institutional, a government building or government use.
It's a school.
That's part of the school.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No one is raising their hand.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No hands.
Okay. Board, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Stark has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconds. Any discussion? I just like to say that I have nothing against solar. I think it could have been better located on the property, which would have been obviously dealt with if we had permitted it. They could have had an additional up to 40 feet between there and the front of the property. Any other comments?
I agree with what you said. The cart's out of the barn. Nobody showed up to object. So hopefully they will find out soon enough how we vote and take whatever action they need to.
Right. Okay. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I'm going to vote no. It carries 4-1. Good luck, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Right, next item.
Item number 11 is a variance request for 1453 Bridlebrook Court located in the Deer Run subdivision. The request is to reduce the north side street setback from 20 feet to 2 feet for a privacy fence in the Deer Run PD. The subject property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces west on Bridlebrook Court. The north side facing Bridlebrook Court is where the variance is being sought. The request is to replace an existing picket fence with a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence in the same footprint, 2 feet from the side street property line. The proposed privacy fence will be 2 feet from the sidewalk and 10 feet from the edge of pavement. The proposed privacy fence encroaches into a utility easement, and that building permitting will be required to meet the criteria for placement within a stop letter. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Deer Run Homeowners Association has approved the proposed fence. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Wallingquist. I am at 1453 Bridlebrook Court, Castleberry, Florida, 32707.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff request or staff comments?
I'm just looking to put up a privacy fence. We are new parents, so we're looking to get a fence up before our son is able to run and get out of the fence we currently have. I know that's going to happen with a toddler. So we're looking to put a privacy fence against the roadside. We also have a dog, and hopefully we'll be able to put a boat in the backyard. The HOA told us if we got a boat, you're not allowed to be able to see it from the road. So that's another reason why we'd like to do the privacy fence, but mostly the security and protection of our son.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have one. How long has the fence that's there right now been there?
It's been there as long as we've lived here. I'm not sure when it was installed. We've been here for 4 years, so over 4 years. I know we have paperwork somewhere where it says when they installed that fence, but I want to say maybe 2012. Not positive though.
And your neighborhood has approved the new fence, the neighborhood association?
Yes, so we are in the Terraces, which is inside of Deer Run. The Terraces has approved it. They installed a library box in the cul-de-sac, which is literally our backyard. So another reason I'm not having privacy. They're now bringing people to the cul-de-sac to sit and read books and be at the lake, which is fine, but it really does look into our backyard, leaving us with practically no privacy.
Heather, I also wanted to note that a fence such as this being short and open, it would be allowed to be up to the property line.
Mr. Coover, you had a question?
Yes, Ms. Wallenquist, would you consider adjusting your request from 20 feet to 2 feet to 20 feet to 10 feet so you can stay out of the utility easement and give a little bit of room between your fence and the sidewalk?
I think that if we go back that far, it really won't leave us with much of a yard. The back of our house is all brick, so we only have that little bit of grass. So we won't really be able to put like a playground. We wouldn't be able to do our boat. We wouldn't be able to do a lot of things. So I'd prefer if we could keep the line that we have, especially since there is a fence already there and it's been established for quite some time.
Right, but you heard what she said about that, correct? You heard what Hillary said about that?
That we have to get a building permit?
The setback requirements don't apply to your current fence because of its height and the fact that it's not opaque, but it does apply to your new fence because it creates a wall. So historically, our board has been reluctant to put these type fences right up on a sidewalk. So that's why I asked.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No, no hands.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No, no one.
Okay, board, do we have a motion? Do we need to have some discussion first?
I'll move to approve it at 10 feet.
Okay. Mr. Coover moves to approve it at 10 feet. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hathaway, second. Okay, any discussion? All right, Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
I personally think we should give it to him at 2 feet because the neighborhood approved it and the neighborhood's made that decision. So I vote no to the 10 feet because I think we should give it to him at 2 feet.
Okay. Vote, okay. And I'm going to vote yes. And so it carries 4-1. Enjoy your fence.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
Item number 12 are two variance requests for 212 Monterey Isle located within the Shadow Bay subdivision. The first request is to reduce the rear yard setback from the mean high water line from 30 feet to 7 feet for a cabana, and the second request is to reduce the rear yard setback from the mean high water line from 30 feet to 8 feet for a pergola in the R1A zoning district. The proposed cabana would be 14 feet by 17 feet and constructed 7 feet from the rear mean high water line. The proposed pergola would be 16 feet by 24 feet and 8.5 feet from the mean high water line. A letter of objection was received from the directly affected neighbor to the north and has been provided to the board. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff?
So when we're looking at the, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
When we're looking at the picture, we see that the 2 foot wall or whatever they're going to put it on. The neighbor that objects is right there to the left. Am I correct?
On the north, lot 49.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Hathaway?
This is a question for staff, and just correct me if I'm wrong. This is just building a structure on top of an impervious surface that already goes to the water's edge, right?
I can show photos later here that show specifically where they're going to go. Right here in this photo, this where that red arrow is where the cabana would be. And then here, where this red arrow is, where the pergola would be above this sand area.
And
Gotcha.
which neighbor was it that complained? It was on the left or the right-hand side?
The one on the north. So right where you see that, the one neighbor that you could see where that fence is on the other side, where the cabana would be.
Huh. All right.
It'd be the closest neighbor.
Correct.
That person's there. I got questions, so it's fun.
Yeah, they said they'd be in attendance tonight.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available to speak.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Sheila Sicker with Streamline Permitting, 1002 Fort Mason Drive, Eustis, Florida, 32726.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to staff comments?
Yes, just a few short things. This, I believe, meets all the conditions of criteria because there isn't any way to reduce the setback. The house is actually constructed at the 30-foot setback. So anything that you build on that existing pool deck, which was permitted and got a variance, is also going to have to receive a side setback. And this, we believe it's medically necessary. The owner has had 2 bouts with melanoma already, and they don't have any shade. We also believe that there's lots and lots of structures in the adjoining properties that are, look the same and have the same, features. They're just trying to create a little bit of shade for themselves in the backyard. And we believe that the adjacent property owner is only an objection to this because his house is turned such that it looks across their backyard. So, he's saying that, or I don't know what he's saying, but I believe that he thinks that it's going to block his view, but it's not going to block his view of the lake. It's just going to be in his view if he looks to the south. And it's still going to be quite a bit away from his private space. And so we don't think it really is going to, object to I'm having brain problems. We don't think it's going to hurt his privacy. There's a giant hedge in between the 2 properties, and that hedge could be continued all the way out to the water. There's just this is their only option for shade, and we hope that you'll consider giving them the same rights and privileges that many of their neighbors already have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Mr. Hadaway.
You'd mentioned privacy a moment ago. Is anything that you're building going to raise the level or the grade of that back decking area?
No, it's just that you see there, if you go back a couple pictures, you'll see that they have a little sand pit on their property as well. And they're concerned that if they were sitting in their, sandy area and my client right there, my client sitting in their cabana, you might be able to overhear each other. Well, that's the nature of neighbors. These parcels aren't large. If you don't want to hear your neighbors, then you need to move out to the country. So I'm not super worried about that, especially when that big hedge runs down between the property lines.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. So you had used a word that caught my ears real quick, was medical necessity for 2 bouts of melanoma, which I'm sorry to hear that for your for your tenants, your people that you're representing.
Thank you.
Are there any other shade structures? Basically, is this to I'm a little confused. So is this to go ahead and basically build a shade structure so that they can, go out there? Because I'm looking right now and I don't see any shade structures out there except for, I believe on the dock, but there's nothing right there on the patio. There's no awnings or anything else. Is this just for shade structure or shade for basically the homeowners? Is that kind of what, or are we looking massive parties, decorations? Because I understand the privacy point of view, but but is this? I'm just making sure there's not huge ruckuses or anything else.
Yeah, these are the opposite of party people. These shaded areas are for a grandmother and her grandbabies, and there is no shade in that backyard. And the structures are being placed in that cabana especially is being placed in the only place it fits, beside the pool. And the trellis area is a little more open area, but if there was a roof structure built on that side, it would block the main view of the lake. So, you can see that.
Looking at that, yeah, thank you. That's a perfect picture right there. So no other shade structures really. So in her bouts with melanoma, two bouts now, this is also just looking kind of, I guess you could say, okay, so that's a nice overview. All right, I would want some shade too. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No hands raised.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Justin Montanan. My address is 208 North Monterey Isle, Longwood, Florida, 32779.
Okay. Sir, what is it you'd like to tell us?
I live next door with my wife, Ashley, and my two children, Logan and Kennedy. And our biggest concern is with the entertainment gazebo portion of this project. It's tough to get a feel from just the pictures that you're looking at, but with the 2-foot elevated patio, and this is just not a sun gazebo, this is an entertaining area. They're going to have appliances and I believe different other portions in it. And what this will do is just absolutely destroy any sense of sanctuary or privacy in our yard. What is different about this request than the other requests are that, number one, when they purchased this house in 2006 or 2008, I'm not sure if you got the photos I submitted, they had the full opportunity to design and create their backyard space. It was mainly grass. There was a resemblance of a pool there. But if they wanted a shade area or other gazebo area, they had the opportunity to build it, more in line with the variance requirements. And they also still have that opportunity. If you take a look at our home, what most homes do in the area is they'll actually build an overhang, a shading, or awnings close to their home. This way, it's not out in front of the water. Not just the homeowners, but people coming by on the water. Having a 238 square foot entertainment gazebo, literally feet from the water. It's going to be, in essence, 14 to 16 feet high and immediately on the water's edge. That storm that we had today already had a bunch of waves coming up, and a structure of that size is going to block the light coming into our yard. And from looking at the different variance criteria, the guidelines, number one, it basically says that you can't create your own predicament. They basically design this yard. They have the opportunity to design it. And also, you're supposed to request the minimum variance possible for shade. There are so many different things that they could do in their yard. Where that sand area is, if they wanted a kitchen entertaining gazebo area, they could easily build that there. They may have to move a little bit of sand. And please look to the property to the right. If they were to build some sort of structure there, not only would they be further back from the water, but they would also have roughly 60 to 65 feet on their other side without, they could basically have their privacy. I really believe the only reason that they're selecting that particular spot is out of convenience. And as she said, because it fits, but that's because of their own design. This would actually be a detrimental impact to my family. We can already, yes, she's right, there is some noise. We can hear the grandkids, but they're good neighbors. If there's an entertaining gazebo literally right on the water next to us, we're going to lose every sense of privacy on there. It's going to decrease our home. And we just purchased this last year. Having conversations in the back with your family about just anything. You can hear each other with its proximity to the water and to the lot line. there's such a variety of other options available. We support requests for shade. We just wish they would do it something more in line with the variances of the county and something that works for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Hadaway.
Sir, a word I heard you use a lot was privacy. And my understanding of the application is that they're not increasing the height of anything in their backyard. They're not removing anything that would allow someone to see onto your property, shine light onto your property. When you say privacy, it sounds like what you're concerned about is just noise and things like that. Am I correctly interpreting what you're saying?
No, sir. It's also visual. Although we first asked about the project, they said the roof is going to be 8 feet high. That's just at the start of the roof. Their patio is already elevated roughly 2 to 2.5 feet in some areas. And so you add a 12-foot structure onto a 2-foot elevated patio. And they had also mentioned they hadn't decided about a decorative vent at this time. So you're literally going to have a 16-foot structure on the very edge of the water. If that was closer back and closer to their home, line of sight when you're looking out, it expands. So if this was in closer proximity to their home, it wouldn't be any one lines of sight. But of an other note, it's not like we're naysayers. My wife's mother, when she lived there across the street, actually supported their request for a previous variance back in 2006 or 2008. So we do support them, but just what they're asking for. I've asked other neighbors, if we were to build some sort of structure immediately on that spot in the lot line, what would you guys have to say? And they were against it. I was hoping it wouldn't come to that, but there are other people that are opposed to building this sort of structure that close to the water and that close to the lot line.
Yes, sir. I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that. But my question was, presuming this is built the day after they're finished, in what way is your privacy diminished? In what way is your privacy different than what you have today?
So if they were to build this structure, are there any regulations with regards to the lights that they're allowed to put on there? And who's to say how long that those particular neighbors are going to be there? If they sell that home and is granted, there's absolutely no idea. But our concerns now are we can already hear them. So it is the sounds immediate on the lot line. And a 16-foot structure, it is looming, if that makes any sense. It almost, you buy a house on the lake for the openness of it, and the loomingness of a 16-foot structure immediately on your lot line gives a closed-in feeling. It's going to block shade. It's going to reduce light where we want light. It will add light where we don't want light. And not only that, but just kayakers and, there's a simple peacefulness of going around the lake and having a structure immediately on the lot line. A lot of pictures that were shown during the montage were pictures of docks. Of course, everyone is going to have a dock, but there are really no examples of anyone building a structure right on the lot line unless their house is pushed all the way that forward. So my apologies. So yes, our privacy would be eliminated visually, audibly. The view area basically stares exactly like the way all our chairs are even facing is just directly at our yard, with just as many other options as there are. And the fact that, when you request a variance, you're supposed to request a minimum variance possible. There are just a plethora of other options. I'll tell you, when they have their grandchildren and family over now, that's not where they currently put their temporary sunshade tent. They put it off where most people put it, on the other side of that pool. It's a further distance, and that's currently where they enjoy it. I literally believe they just selected that particular space out of convenience in their previous choices.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a few questions?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Biggs.
So, I heard a lot as well about privacy is what I heard as well. When I saw the picture, and one of the questions I had, there's actually three of them. The first one of which I saw a ton of palm trees and foliage that the staff had either provided or the owner of the house had provided, and there was a ton of palm trees right there on that lot land. There's a bunch. Thank you, right there. That picture on the right, also on the left, actually shows palm trees, foliage, lots of trees. So that right there is already going to be blocking right up, to my understanding, and I can only go off the picture, sir, because I've never seen this property. But how is that going to be furthering? You're saying about putting light, adding light where light was not used to be, and taking away light where light used to come in. With that amount of foliage and those heavy palm trees and that hedge line, I'm not sure how that's going to take away or add any land. It looks like what's there is there already. That's a pretty thick amount of foliage there. That's property adjacent to your property, sir. Am I mistaken on that? Because I can only go off what the pictures are showing.
No, so that's a very fair question, because the pictures are misleading. If you see that row of shrubs, because an aerial shot, it looks very bushy and very separated. But from that area, so this structure, if you're looking at that picture on the left right there, where those podocarpus hedges are, that is not even where the roof line starts. So literally, we will have a roof from right above where those mature podocarpuses are and going up, and the entire roof will be available. Now, also, if you look at that picture right there, you'll see that there, do you see their dock area?
Yeah.
So imagine that structure immediately on the lot line. So we actually put, we're not just naysayers, we put some red tape up on one of the palm trees in order to say, hey, I mean, is this thing visible? How bad would this thing be? And it actually became more concerning. So above those podocarpus, where that is, no matter where you're sitting, you are going to see a gigantic roof, literally right on the edge of the water. Now, from the pictures, he actually took that picture when he came over. I'm a little upset about that because it's facing directly forward. It's a little misleading. But if you're sitting at any area, the way that humans' vision is, you will be able to see that roof from, I would say, 65 to 70% of the views. It'll block the view from both my children's rooms, and the patio area, offices. So we will literally see this structure. And I guess what is so concerning about that is that there's so many other options available. It's not like they have to put it there or nowhere else. It's not nihilism. There's plenty of other options. Like, we put the overhang directly attached to our home in the center. They could easily do the same thing. I mean, moving a sand pit is not that bad.
You had mentioned about taking away light, though, and adding light, and it's an open structure. It's not a foundation wall that we're putting in that's already on this existing pad. I'm failing to see how that's going to take away or add light unless and to answer your question, you said, is there a certain amount of light that can protrude in somebody? And yes, there is under Seminole County. There are codes that are out there that says what's the lumen level that a certain property can go ahead and have to their next door neighbors. There is that light code that is out there for a certain amount of lumens. But okay, so I heard.
You're right. So this is not just simply a shade gazebo. Those drawings that you received are not accurate as to what is going to be included in there. There is going to be like a kitchen. You know what? Thank you for bringing that up. This is not going to be simply an open walled sitting area. There's going to be appliances, I believe a sink. So it is not going to be exactly see-through. And to your other point about the hedges, far away when you take a picture of a hedge, like, those hedges are extremely transparent. You can see through them. And when I talk about the light being obstructed, a roof covering that size, when the sun projects over the area, that is going to block sunlight and make those plants even thinner. So I guess to return to that point, this is not a completely open gazebo. There's going to be appliances and other items in there. They're just not pictured in the drawings yet.
Okay. All right. I'll stop because that's not really what the issue is right now. It's just about the building structure, not what's in it. And
Okay.
it's the building structure. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Justin,
Yes, sir.
there's actually two different structures being proposed. Do you have any objection to the pergola?
Overall, sir, I would say, less concerns there. I mean, if it was, no, sir. I mean, if that got them the amount of shade they would need, my family would, I don't believe, be impeded in any way for that structure.
Okay, so your objection is primarily with the cabana?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
No one in opposition.
Okay. Board, what I would like to do, since we have two different structures.
Sir, also, the applicant does have the opportunity to rebut at this time.
Okay. In fact, let me go there. Is the applicant still present?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Would you like to say anything in rebuttal to the points that your neighbor made?
Yes, please. If you could bring back up either the aerial or page number 5 of 5 and 6 that has some photographs of the backyard. Yeah, the one item I wanted to mention again was that whatever they build back there, it's going to require a variance because the house is already built at the setback. So these are just the most logical places for these structures to be built. Yes, some of it is convenience. It's what makes the most sense. But if you look at photographs 6 of 17 on the left side, and we go back to 5, please. I'm sorry, back one more page. On the picture on the right, if you look at the second tree, the second palm tree from the left, that's where the edge of the pool deck, the current pool deck, ends. And so the roof is going to be inside that pool deck, several feet away from the water and several feet away from the property line. And so what would be visible, what portion of the roof would be visible from this back porch would just be a little bit of the side of the cabana, just like you can see the side of their boat dock out there. So, in terms of blocking his view of what? Of the adjacent boat dock, maybe, on the other side of the property? I just don't think it's really blocking his view of anything nice, because when you go to page 6, you can see that his mostly open view is out directly to the west and not across. His house is turned across my client's property. It's the house is canted so that some of his view is across my client's property, but I don't think he has a right to have a completely open view across my client's property. There are many, many cabanas that are built exactly like this, just a few feet from the normal high. One directly adjacent that's only 6 feet away. And if you can go to the aerial photograph of the boat of both of the parcels, you'll see that the parcel to the north has a boat dock that actually is just barely 5 feet off the shared property line. So it's their boat dock is in my client's view of the lake, but they've never had a problem with that. Regarding the comment on whether the cabana was going to have walls or it wasn't shown the way it was actually going to be built, we're just talking about appliances, countertop, a sink, yes, a cooler, but all, barely waist high and completely would be blocked by the vegetation. So I still don't really see anything that doesn't meet the criteria of a variance, in my opinion. Thank you for your time.
I do want to note, Chairman, that if the structure was 200 square feet or less, it would only have a 10-foot setback from that rear yard or the main high water line.
Okay. I have a question for staff. Also, I know when I just constructed the shed that if it's outside the normal setback, it can go back to 10 feet, but it can't exceed 12 feet in height without a variance, correct?
Right.
And would the stack built on top of it be considered exceeding the 12 feet in height?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The top, the neighbor spoke of them possibly adding some type of 2-foot stack to the 12-foot structure. Would that be considered exceeding the height and require variance?
I'm not sure about that. It just says 12 feet in height.
Right.
200 square feet and 12 feet in height. Less than 12 feet.
So how we measure the height of a structure when it has a roof, we measure it, the average between the eave of the roof and the top of the roof. So let's say that eave is 8 feet and the height is 12, then we would consider it to be 10 foot tall. That's how it's defined by our land development code.
And if I build a chimney that then went 3 or 4 feet, whatever, higher than the top of the roof, would that require variance?
It depends on how the size of it. It's the same that we would do a column, and I believe it's over 18 inches,
Okay.
or similar to that.
Okay. I was just curious. Okay. All right. Well, I would like, if there's no more questions for the applicant, what I'd like to do is deal with these one at a time. Since the neighbor has no opposition to the pergola, could we get a motion on the pergola first?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Beagle has a motion to approve. We have a second.
Second.
Mr. Hadley, you have a second. You have any discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll be voting no for any of these because, as the objecting neighbor pointed out, it's not the minimal request in either event, and they did design their own property. Number one. Number two, staff is telling us that the applicant has not met the conditions, so it's legally insufficient, which most are, but we work around that if we can. But when we have an objecting neighbor, I'm going to vote against allowing something like this that's not in line with the code. Those are my comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Steve on that. I think with the objecting neighbor, I'm a no on both too.
Okay.
Respectfully, I disagree.
I agree. I think that when you're talking about, you're talking about designing a house and designing the lot, etc. Me being in medicine that I am in, I am not sure when the melanoma had kicked in. I'm not sure when that had started. Was that before or after? But the fact is I have a hard time believing they're asking for a shade structure just now, if that's a new diagnosis. And I think letting somebody enjoy their backyard, their backyard is fine. When I see that much foliage and trees, etc., about lighting and everything else, I just have, I don't know. I find it a little bit hard to swallow. And I personally, I respectfully agree or disagree as well on what Steve had said is, if especially this is a medical condition. I mean, I don't know. That's the way I feel.
Hey, Mr. Hadaway?
I'm for 25 years now, I'm a 3rd stage melanoma survivor. It darn near killed me. Having said that, I think that's irrelevant to the conversation. This is a land use matter. And I think the neighbor's objections strike me as what, Steve and Mr. Chipok and I have all went through in law school with that Fontainebleau case, of that neighboring property owners don't have a right to a line of sight, to light, or all these kinds of things. And I think when we have a situation where a pool deck and a seawall go right up to the water and into the water, if what they're now trying to add to it are these two minor structures. It strikes me as a de minimis addition. There was a discussion of privacy. Nobody has an additional ability to look into and see into the neighbors' yards. And so I really don't think this is something that's a significant addition to what's already there. And I have no trouble with what's being applied for.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. So we have a motion and a second on the pergola to approve the request. Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Mr. Coover?
No.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
No.
And on the pergola, I will vote yes, so it's going to carry 3-2. The motion passes. Now, do we have a motion on the cabana?
So moved. Yes.
Second.
All right. Mr. Hathaway motion to approve the cabana. Mr. Bigley seconds. Any further discussion? Okay.
I think I'll just repeat what I had said, Mr. Chairman. I don't think it's as significant. It's not, it's an open structure. I don't agree with the neighbor who says that adding kitchen-y type things makes it not an open structure. This does not impede on anyone's privacy. This is a piece of property where you already have a pool deck and seawall going right into the water. And this really strikes me as not that big of an improvement or alteration to what's already there.
And Mr. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Hathaway. I believe that as well. And I'm not sure if my spidey senses here are tingling a little bit. I don't know if there's a neighbor squabble here or not. And as you've said before every meeting, we don't concern ourselves with that. But was that the reason for the opposition? But I agree is that it's not about what Mr. Hathaway said is I don't think it's a massive reach for it. I really don't. So I'm going to be on board with it.
Okay. And I just say, on the issue of privacy, I have a right to stand anywhere on my property and see and hear anything I can see from my property. If the neighbor doesn't want me to see or hear it, then they need to do something to obscure it. It's not my issue. So I don't think privacy is the huge issue to me. My issue to me is there is a setback in place that neighbors do have a right to expect the county to maintain the setbacks unless there's a true hardship. I think with the pergola, they do get the ability to get some shade. However, I just have issues with the cabana itself. Okay. Any other comments? All right. Mr. Bigley? All right. Mr. Coover?
No.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
No.
And I vote no, so the motion is denied. Excuse me, my allergies are kicking in. Okay. All right, so we have another motion.
Well, we've got one approved and one declined. Isn't that everything that was before us?
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay.
The same.
All right. Mr. Coover makes a motion to deny the request for the cabana. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Ms. Stark seconds. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm a little confused. What are we voting on here? I thought we voted on pergola and cabana.
Well, the cabana didn't pass. I was just making sure there's no other motions to be entertained in regards to it. I just want to put it to bed.
Yeah, the motion to approve failed, so.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Bigley, how do you vote?
I vote nay.
All right. Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
No.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the request to build a cabana is denied. Now, to the applicant, you have 15 days to appeal our decision to the Board of County Commissioners. If you get with staff, they will help you out with the process. Thank you. Okay, last item.
Last and certainly lease for tonight. We have 1224 Variant Glade. This is item number 13, a variance request for 1224 Variant Glade Place located in Meadows at Hawks Crest subdivision. The request is to reduce the south side street setback from 15 feet to 5 feet for a privacy fence in the San Pedro plan development. The property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front house faces east on Verdant Glade Place. The Wild Meadow Run side on the south is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence 10 feet into the required 15-foot side street setback. The proposed privacy fence will be 5 feet from the sidewalk and 15 feet from the edge of pavement. The proposed privacy fence will encroach into a utility easement, and this building permitting will be required to meet placement with the estoppel letter. Excuse me. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Yes, Mr. Hadaway?
2 questions, Ms. Hayden, real quick. Am I seeing correctly there that in their application, in their drawing, on that south side of the fence, they're proposing to put in a gate?
Yes, and I have discussed with the property owner that that gate would not be permitted.
So if it's approved tonight, there'll be no gate?
There will be no gate regardless.
All right. Just out of curiosity, but my second question, it's moot, but just curious, are those regular concrete curbs or Miami gutters or, curbs there?
Miami curbs, correct. 2-foot Miami curbs on the plan.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Mr. Cooper?
Yes, on the variance criteria response by the applicant number 2, I want to point out that the applicant is saying that the Hawks Crest at Winter Park community standards, which I assume are in their declarations, state fencing on corner lots must be installed a minimum of 5 feet back from the front corners and a minimum of 5 feet from the sidewalk on the side street of the lot.
That's the HOA requirement.
Should the county do something to advise them that they're requiring minimums that violate the setbacks?
We could definitely look into that.
Because that's going to create the same confusion that this applicant had when he's trying to meet the standard for his community, and that violates the county setback. But I don't know if it's a mistake, but it had to have been part of their development, their PD. So I think it's just an error. It needs to be corrected.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but we can definitely look into it, Mr. Hoover.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
We have no one raising their hand for this application. Oh, there they are. They're raised their hand. They're on the phone.
Okay, could you state your name and address for the record?
They need to unmute.
Good evening.
They're ready. Hello, this is Stephanie Espelgar.
And Richard Fry at 1224 Verdant Glade Place, Winter Park, 32792.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
I just wanted to state that the primary reason for the fence is to recover some of our side yard to offer privacy and security for our large 60-pound dog and for our future children. We would rather have some side yard instead of having the fence come off the corner of the home to allow for installation of an extended patio at some time in the future. And also, I am aware of the gate would not be approved. So I would have to look at installing a 5-foot gate facing verdant glade on that side of the house to allow for lawn service to enter the backyard. Between the houses, the gate would only be 4 feet and the requirement's 5 for lawnmowers.
Okay. And how far would the fence be from the side of the house where you propose?
From the side of the house, it would extend 11.3 feet, which would offer 15.2 feet of open space from the fence line to the pavement of the street.
Gotcha. Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
No.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay, board, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Cooper has a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Beagley seconds. Do we have any discussion?
Same old for me.
Okay. Mr. Beagley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yep.
Ms. Stark?
Yes.
And I vote no. The motion passes 3-2. Enjoy your fence.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item would be minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve from Mr. Hathaway. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Beagley? How do you vote? Mr. Coover?
Yes.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
Ms. Stark?
I wasn't here, but sure, yes.
And I vote yes. Motion
It looked good to me.
Okay, before we sign off, there's one last thing, Kathy. We were asked last meeting to send a letter to the fence contractors. Can you just update the board on that?
Well, what I wanted to discuss with the board is that we were talking about the fence contractors, but did we want to include any other contractors? Like we have the solar panel that came up, and that's what reminded me is that do we want, it's just not fences, or do you want to just focus on fences now? Or include it with other structures that we see where people build them without permits?
I have no problem with including as many people as we need to include.
Okay.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
Nope.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Y'all have a great one.
You too.
Y'all be safe.
Good job, Mr.